is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the sports betting network, Sirius XM channel 158. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Thursday. Stormy, Buonantony with you live in downtown Las Vegas at the world's largest sportsbook, Circa Resort and Casino. Alongside today, Grace Remington hanging out there in Nashville. Lots to get to over the course of the next hour. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we will have VSiN's own Wes Reynolds join us, break down the MLB slate and more coming up here today. We will also have the sportsbook director over at the Red Rock Casino and Sportsbook, Chuck Esposito, stop by, get the lowdown from behind the counter on all things NBA playoffs as well as the NFL draft. We are just 7 days out there. Real quickly, a couple quick score updates with you. Got day baseball going on. The Diamondbacks lead the Marlins right now 3-1 in the top of the third. Eduardo Rodriguez pitching for the D-backs today, giving up 4 hits but no runs, 6 strikeouts the first 2 innings, Grace. And you were pointing out in the commercial break that K-prop set at 6.5, a good start here if anybody fired on Rodriguez.
Yeah, his highest of the season so far, his K-props had been 5.5 before this game. But like I said, right now, he's throwing strikes at the highest rate of his career, 29.4%. His career long number is 23.7. So that's a pretty nice jump for him. And it's because he's mixing his pitches differently. Of course, playing in a dome will always help a pitcher, and Miami is not good against lefties. So kind of going how we thought it would go at this point.
Yeah, and your lean's looking good here. Marlins team total, you liked the under. D-backs team total over. Things are trending in a positive direction right now. Not trying to Gucci curse anybody, though. Don't come for me. 3-1, though, that score right now. Live total sitting at 9.5, and the D-backs minus 345. Money line price, they are minus 2.5 on the run line. Cabrera, they're also 2 hits, 2 walks, 3 runs allowed to this point. The Pirates are up 1-0 in the top of the second. Do the Nationals still have? They had runners on the corners, but I think they might be through now. And then the Reds up 2-0 on the Mariners. So we will keep you updated on those scores as we go this hour. But for now, I want to get into a little bit of this NFL draft conversation, Grace, because we are just a week out right now. While the top pick in the draft seems to be about as cemented as it can be, despite that being a little bit absurd on the surface, knowing that for many of these draft analysts, Cam Ward isn't even a top 10 prospect in this year's draft. He's minus 10,000 to be the number 1 overall selection from the Tennessee Titans. It's after that where things get a little bit more questionable. However, we appear to be seeing a little bit more consensus in the top 3. Titans with Cam Ward, Browns, Travis Hunter, the favorite there, the Giants, Abdul Carter as your top 3 laid out. And then I thought this was interesting, and I teased this, that everyone I ask lately says, the draft starts at a different number. The draft starts at 6. The draft starts at 8. Well, if you are to believe Matt Euman's draft here at VSiN, one of our great betting analysts, does an excellent job on the draft every single year. He and the ESPN anonymous NFL scout breakdown that was revealed this morning selected who their top 10, like the way that they anticipate the top 10 of this year's draft playing out. Humans and this anonymous scout profile had the top 8 all identical, and then things changed at 9 and 10 with the Saints and Bears. As far as the top 8 goes, Grace, have you been seeing pretty much the same names popping up everywhere, or like any differences that have stood out to you?
I really think this 9 spot with the Saints is the wild card in the draft. So, feels like we're all kind of feeling the same way here. And I love that Humans has Jackson Dart. Do you remember when we played Why Not Wednesday? I think it was in January. And granted, this was a little bit of a crazy one, but I said Jackson Dart to be the first quarterback at 45-1. I'm starting to feel a lot better. I'm not saying he's the first, it's going to be Cam Ward, okay? But I'm just saying at that point in time, nobody was talking about Jackson Dart, and everyone loved Shador. And now here we are, and we're starting to see it flipped. So I just, whatever. I'm just going to pat myself on the back. But if we could find a market, I know there's the Jackson Dart under over 24.5. And I think yesterday it was minus 155 to the under. If we could find a market where it's Jackson Dart second quarterback off the board, I'm really curious what that would look like. Because if it's not too juicy, that's something I would love to play, because it really does feel like just what did the Giants do at the number 3 at this point, and then do they trade up? Everything revolves around Shedeur. So I feel like those odds, Shedeur versus Jackson Dart, could be pretty good if we can find it.
Also, Dart top 10, like that market is available, and he's plus 270 there. If you think that could be a potential landing spot, right? So the way that the scouts had the number 9 pick with the Saints, who are currently in that spot, they had Shamar Stewart, edge rusher out of Texas A&M, going there. You mentioned Matt Youmans having Jackson Dart. Shedeur Sanders is the name that's been popular, and why his over-under position prop is sitting at 8.5, because the Saints now, with the Derek Carr injury, which I still can't get over. Like, I didn't even know Derek Carr was injured, and now he's potentially out for the season with the shoulder. So that whole layer is fascinating to me. Yet we are here and trying to figure out what the Saints are going to do in the Shedeur Sanders market for the team that he will go to. Saints were as high as minus 110 at one point. Now they're plus 125. The Giants are plus 270, with that number getting slightly shorter. And I feel like that's just perception-wise because the Giants are out in Boulder today and they're doing that private workout. I personally am not reading much into that workout at all. I view this as if we're going to pass on a quarterback with a top 5 pick, let's just make sure about it kind of thing. Or it could even be one of those, as you try to see if anybody can, if they think we're really interested in Shedeur and you might want him, see if you can work something out and bait people into a trade, which is not going to happen, by the way. They're going to take somebody at 3. I very firmly believe it's not going to be Shedeur Sanders. And it's also worth noting in this argument, so we see that market slightly move, but let's not forget that the Giants are also visiting a couple other quarterbacks as well. They are still having planned visits this close up to the draft with Tyler Shuck and Jalen Milroe, who would be available later on in the draft when they do have another pick in the second round.
Right. This Giants situation is so confusing because they've known since January that they have the number 3 pick. You've had 4 months to set the top of your big board. Why is it coming down to the week before when they're still trying to figure this out? It does feel like there's not an alignment among the coach, the OC, the GM, maybe the owner too. I mean, who knows who else? When it's coming down to a week before, it's just, I don't know, don't feel great about it. But I mean, if they decide to trade up from that 33rd pick, still like Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, if he's available, like I feel okay with those too, especially if you're going to start the year with Russell Wilson and let the rookie develop behind him. I would rather go with a bigger, like Abdul Carter, of just someone as a known.
Grace, that's my thought, is if you can get, and I know we throw around the term generational talent too much, but if you can get a guy who you truly believe can be an impact player for you right away, and you have your quarterback situation at least settled enough for this year with the guys that you bring in, and you're also picking at number 34. And if you want to trade up just for security in the lower half of the first round, whatever it is, or I think you can still get a decent enough tiered quarterback option there at 34 overall early in the second round of the draft. Like, why wouldn't you just do that? I think that makes too much sense, and maybe that's why they wouldn't, because they're the Giants and they don't do things that make sense.
Yeah, that seems to be their thing. I will say, looking at this thing, dang, I just pulled up the draft team specials odds on DraftKings because I wanted to look at the Patriots, because on the scout questionnaire, I really love that they went with an offensive lineman here after the Pats gave up 52 sacks last season. They had the worst pass block win rate in the NFL. So I was looking for, what are their odds to draft a tackle? Because that seems like the one spot where no one really has a consent. It's off the board. They don't even have it. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, and that's a match on Matt Youmans as well. Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. Where things sit right now, 5, at least again, in these predictions that are combined with ESPN and Matt Youmans, they both have the Jags, Mason Graham, D-tackle out of Michigan State there at 5. The Raiders taking Ashton Genty, although I did hear Youmans say recently on VSiN that He doesn't think that the Raiders should take Ashton Genty there, but that's what he thinks ultimately is going to happen. The Raiders are minus 125 favorite to land Ashton Genty in that spot. His position total 9.5, over is plus 215. The under minus 285, because there are obviously a couple interesting spots that he could land there. The Jets with Armand Membu, offensive tackle out of Missouri. At one point, Grace, I thought this was interesting. He was being discussed as a top 5 or 6 pick. His position total set at 6.5 right now. That's gotten juiced way, way, way over, minus 400 right now versus the under being plus 300. So that's telling you right there that it's the thought that he's not going to be that top 5 guy that he was discussed as for a long time. The Panthers at 8 going linebacker with Jalen Walker out of Georgia. And then we mentioned those changes with the Saints. The Scouts have Shamar Stewart at 9. The Bears, Will Johnson. Meanwhile, Humans going Jackson Dart for the Saints. The Bears, Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. He's being bet over 9.5 for the position, which makes sense with this selection here at 10. Minus 240 to the over, plus 185 under, which similarly to what we were just saying about Membo, a very different tune from just a couple weeks ago. We will get more into the draft a little bit later when Chuck Esposito joins us. Something that people that are maybe new to betting might not know or understand is that a lot of sportsbooks really do not like betting booking the draft, because it's such an information-based event versus, a game where, if you think about it conceptually, anything can hypothetically happen on the field of play or on the court, right? Well, in the draft, that's not necessarily the same case. A lot of books don't put any of these props up at all. Some of them wait to the last minute. So I'm curious to hear Chuck's strategy on that, and maybe any plays that are getting taken a lot over there. So we'll hit that and a whole lot more. But coming up next, Wes Reynolds is going to join us. We're going to continue to break down the MLB slate. Handful of games already in action, but where can you place your bets later on this afternoon?
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
3 games in action on the MLB slate right now. The Diamondbacks up 3-1 on the Marlins right now in the top of 4. Pirates with a 1-0 lead over the Nationals. Reds up 2-0 on the Mariners after 2. We will keep you updated as we go, and plenty of games still to come on the MLB slate. One topic regarding kind of conceptually some angles to bet in Major League Baseball we're going to get into with Wes Reynolds as he joins us here back on Money Moves via the Progressive Guest Line. VSiN betting analyst. You can follow him on X at Wes Reynolds 1, also co-host of the Long Shots podcast here on the VSiN family of podcast networks. What's going on, Wes? How are you today, my friend?
Good morning, gang. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Better now that we have you with us. And I am very curious. I know you were telling us in the commercial break there is an angle that you like to approach with some of these day baseball games, and there's one that might apply today.
Yeah, and if you look at yesterday, it just happened that all the day games went under. Now, that's not always going to happen, and especially when we get to the summertime, when it heats up, you're going to see the ball travel. We know the scoring always goes up once we get to June and July. But if you look at the game that's going to go off next hour, the A's and the White Sox, both these teams, it's a getaway game for both of these teams, which means both of them got to go on the road. The A's have another series in Milwaukee starting tomorrow. The White Sox, I believe, go to Boston to play the Red Sox. So more often than not, and you still got to handicap the individual matchups, and of course you start with the pitchers first before you go to the batters. More often than not, I think your first instinct should be to look to the under with this, because these teams got to get away. It's early game, some quick hacks maybe, and you get the game in. These kind of tend to be a little bit quick games in terms of the timing. So like A's White Sox, you could see they're kind of juiced to the under at 8 pretty much across the board. So that would be where I would look to at least, and then that's where you get into like the pitching matchup. And both these guys, Sears and Martin, do a little bit of positive regression. So I would at least look under before I'd look over with A's White Sox today.
I love that you clarify it's a little bit more apt at the start of the season, because sometimes my thought process is, well, they're playing in the middle of the day when it's the hottest, especially in the midsummer months, so you wouldn't want to blindly bet those unders. But love that getaway game angle, and then of course you still have to handicap them individually. But let's get to the NBA now, starting with the Bucks Pacers here. The Pacers are minus 195 favorite to win the series. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, look, I'm a little biased because I'm a former employee of Pacers Sports and Entertainment at one stage of my life. So, I'm hoping for the Pacers just as a fan, but I do like them in the series. And I know the Bucks won 3 of the 4 this season, but there were some injuries and some guys for the Pacers that sat out those games. But if you look at last year, the Pacers really had these guys numbered. They beat them out here in Las Vegas in that play-in tournament to get into the finals before the Pacers lost to the Lakers in the championship game, and then they beat them in the playoffs. Now, Giannis missed some time, Dame missed some time, but the Bucks really kind of look at this as a little bit of a rivalry because there's some heat between these teams for some reason, for a variety of reasons. Tyrese Halliburton, of course, he is a native of Wisconsin, so he's a Milwaukee guy and playing for the rival team, and the Milwaukee people don't seem to like Tyrese very much. He's not very popular. If you recall that Thursday night game where he hit that fall away 3 to basically hit the game winner about a month ago. So I like the Pacers here. I think that they're playing really well, despite the fact that there's some analysts on some other sport betting platforms or sport betting shows. It's like, I haven't watched the Pacers very much this year. Well, if you haven't really watched them, you've seen that they've got the 4th best record since the start of the year of any team in the NBA. So I think a lot of people are going with the Bucks here just on the Giannis factor, and superstars can clearly win a series, but I think the Pacers get it done here. Minus 190, probably about the right price or close to $2, I would say. So maybe you go exact here and go Pacers in 6 or Pacers in 7 to get a little bit more value, but I think the blue and gold move on.
I saw that clip making the rounds earlier today, and yeah, if you don't know now, you know. Maybe pay attention. The Bucks, by the way, I am curious because we talked about that bad blood a little bit earlier on the program here. Did you have any thoughts for Game 1, where we have seen that line move out a point? Pacers from 4.5 out to 5.5 now on that early round 1 Game 1 spread. Did you have any thoughts on Game 1?
Now, I think 5.5 is probably the right number. Now, no real value for me. I would look a little bit to the over. Want to see obviously the health of the teams. It looks like Dame time's going to be back, so that could help the scoring. So I would probably look over before I'd look anything on the side for Game 1.
The series that's expected to be the most competitive here, the Nuggets and Clippers, right now looking at DraftKings, they're both listed at minus 110 to win the series. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Grace, I think I'm with the world on this because you've seen a lot of Clippers sentiment, and I absolutely agree with it here. The Clippers, I think, are the real dark horse to get out of the West here, and because I value their defense. They are 3rd in defensive rating in the NBA, and this is a tough matchup for Jokic. Jokic is the best player in the world, and he's going to get his pretty much every single night. But the Clippers are one of the only teams that I think that they can play him straight up, where they don't have to help on him so much, because the Clippers have Zubac down low. And Zubac is going to be a handful offensively. That's going to make Jokic play defense. And when you make him play defense, that's going to expend a little energy for him, where maybe he's not going to have as much on the offensive end because he's going to have to, account for Zubac, who can score and who can rebound down in the paint with the best of them. So I do like the Clippers and the Nuggets. You just wonder what the mindset is, because we know Malone got fired with like 2 weeks left in the season. So how is that going with them? Jamal Murray is just coming back from injury, having missed a few games. So I do like the Clippers in this series. I'm with the market on this one.
VSiN betting analyst Wes Reynolds joining us here on Money Moves. Not every day that you see a 7 seed favored over a 2 in a series, but when that 7 seed is the Golden State Warriors, it becomes a little bit more reasonable. The Warriors a little shy of $2 favorites in the set against the Houston Rockets. Did you have any thoughts or breakdown on that series?
Haven't bet this one as of yet, but it did kind of stand out to me here because the Rockets, look, not a lot of playoff experience, but they've kind of been on the come up here over the last couple of years with a lot of these young players, with Green and with Alperen Sengun. So they've come together a little bit. I think Udoka's really done a good job with this bunch down there in Houston. So I'd probably look Rockets Game 1 at least. And with these series prices too, you don't have to necessarily necessarily bet them before the series starts. You can kind of trade in and out, and you can do the same thing, I think, with the NHL as well. When a team goes down 1-0, then all of a sudden you get a dog price and trade money a little bit and lock in profit if you want to approach it that way. But I lean Rockets in the series if I had to make a bet, but it is tough to go against Golden State because there's something about them. And we saw it in the Memphis game the other night where they didn't cover the game, but when they need a big shot, Steph is usually going to hit it. So that's always kind of the worry of going against Golden State here, but would lean Rockets.
When it comes to the series markets, do you ever look at the game totals or the series spread instead, or do you just kind of take everything as a case-by-case basis?
I do, Grace. I play a lot of series spreads here, and I did play one, actually. Now, this is one you got to lay a little bit of juice to do. I think there's still like some $1.40 out there, but I like the Magic plus 3.5 games. Basically, that bet is you're betting the Magic to win one game in this series and avoid getting swept. And this team does not have the offensive firepower. I think they're 28th in scoring. They really have struggled scoring the ball. And you saw that in spots in the play-in game against Atlanta the other night. But they're also number 2 in defensive rating. And they slow the tempo. They know that they're not really a great shooting team, especially from the outside. And look, Boston, nobody takes as many threes as Boston does. So there's going to be a night where I think that they're going to be a little bit off. So I think looking series spread is definitely another way. And especially when you got a big money line where I'm not going to take Orlando to win this series, certainly where I'm getting plus 2,000 because I think Boston's going to move on. But there's some ways you can play these. The Pistons might be another one too against the Knicks, taking them on a series spread plus 1.5. Basically, you're saying that series is going to go 7 if you make that bet, because the Pistons are this young, hungry team that doesn't have a lot of experience. And I worry about the Knicks a little bit. We know Tom Thibodeau in the past when he was in Chicago and now in New York, he runs these starters into the ground. He does not play his bench a lot of minutes. So this young, hungry Pistons team, I think, is going to be ready to compete.
We got to hit the break, Wes, but real quick, 20 seconds. WrestleMania coming up this week in Vegas. Are you going to Allegiant?
I am. I'm going night 2. So going to see Cody Rhodes and John Cena in the main event. So should be a spectacle, and going to catch some independent shows around town this weekend as well.
That's awesome. I expect all the content on your Twitter, please, and thank you, Wes.
You bet. You bet. Anything for you guys. Thanks for having me on.
You're the best. Wes Reynolds, everybody. Make sure you follow him on X at Wes Reynolds 1. And of course, tune in if you haven't already been this season to the Long Shots podcast. He has been crushing it this golf season. Also, good reminder, anybody who is getting into horse racing right now, VSiN at the track, the road to the Kentucky Derby is live tomorrow and every Friday leading up to the Triple Crown. The key Derby prep races are in the rear view, but they're breaking down all of the contenders for this year's Run for the Roses. Mike Somish, Aaron Halterman. Join them tomorrow, 2:10 Eastern on the VSiN YouTube channel at VSiN Live for all that expert analysis and insight. VSiN at the track, again, streaming live tomorrow, 2:10 Eastern, as we count down to the Crippled Crown. Diamondbacks up 5-1 now on the Marlins. We'll get you some score updates and welcome Chuck Esposito of the Red Rock Racing Sportsbook next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
5-2, your updated score in D-backs. Marlins Eduardo Rodriguez did go over the K-prop with his 7th last inning. We also got the Pirates up 1-0 on the Nats. Reds leading the Mariners 2-0 right now as we welcome you back here to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, alongside Grace Remington, Stormy Buonantony with you. Excited now to head behind the counter with Chuck Esposito, who joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. Director over at the Red Rock Racing Sportsbook in Summerlin. So much to get to with the NBA play-in underway, the playoffs upon us here in short order. It's the last day of the NHL regular season. We've got the NFL draft upon us. So needless to say, Chuck, you're a little busy right now. How's it going?
I'm doing well, Stormy. You're right. There's really no downtime anymore. It seems like that used to be the case, but there's always something going on. And with baseball a few weeks in right now, and as you alluded to, NBA and NHL playoffs getting ready to kind of kick off, and then the pro football draft, all kind of fun stuff from our side of the counter and stuff the guests really love.
Lots of exciting things happening. Can't wait to hear all about it. But we'll start with the NBA. Which teams are, or I guess first I'll ask, looking at the markets, the series markets versus these play-in or game one markets, the game-by-game markets, which one do you think is more popular among your clientele?
I think it's the series prices right now, Grace. I think there's people are looking at, that Clipper Nugget series really is getting some play. Pacers Bucks, I think, is an intriguing series. But really, that Clipper Nugget series to me is the one that kind of is jumping off the page a little bit. We know the Nugget, the changes they made on the bench, and upstairs what they did, and although they're a favorite in the game, the Clippers seem to be a really popular choice with some sharp money that we've seen early, and we have some liability on them to win the championship as well.
What is that current series price for you guys? Because, I feel like everyone that I have talked to has liked the Clippers in this matchup, and there are a handful of people that think even they can make a little bit of a run, potentially make some noise in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they're a small favorite, Stormy. They're a little bit over a 6-5 favorite, yet they're a dog in the game. And I think you look at them and the way, with Kawhi and Zubac, I think they're a team that a lot of people like. And I agree with you. I've heard the same thing from the general public. I've heard it from some sophisticated or sharp players as well. So kind of curious to see how that series ultimately plays out.
While we're talking about the series markets, the Lakers seem to be everyone's biggest liability at this point. How do you kind of combat that?
It's our liability every night when they play. It's kind of like the Knights. We don't have our own NBA team here yet, so it's the late game. Everything usually is dumping into them. We definitely have liability on them to win the NBA championship. We had it all season long, and then after the Luka trade, that happened as well. We're still going to be in market and, put a number up that we hope gets two-way action. There has been some early action on the Timberwolves in game one. I think you look at the Timberwolves, Edwards is going to have to be Superman. They have some size, which the Lakers lack a little bit, but we know the T-Wolves give up a lot of points. So I think that hurts a little bit with the Lakers offense, and Luka's going to want to make a statement here with LeBron, but no question we'll be rooting against them from the business side of it on a nightly basis, I would think, guys.
Are the Warriors any liability for you guys too? Because it's another popular team, obviously with plenty of playoff experience. Or who are you seeing get the most in the Western Conference and for the NBA Finals winner?
It's no surprise, Stormy, but the two teams we have the most liability on are the Warriors and Lakers. And that was, well before the trade deadline even that we had liability on both those two teams. But it's continued. So we'll be, rooting against them. I think they might match up where they play in the second round or so. But they're both teams that we have some serious liability on.
We were talking about some of the line movement earlier in the show for these game ones. So anything on Saturday or Sunday you're seeing a lot of action in, whether it's a side or total?
Well, we have seen the Pacer game climb up a full point. So that's a team that I think everybody's kind of looking at a little bit. We're in overall pretty good shape with them. You look at the price on the Pacers, though. I mean, they're, I think, 70-1 right now. They're a favorite in the game. They're a favorite in the series. And they've seen some significant action in game one. And as I mentioned, some of the larger bets have come in on the Lakers, but we've seen a little bit of sharp play on the Timberwolves as that number's come down a little bit. So for Saturday, that's kind of where we're seeing it right now. I know it'll pick up over the next day or two, but those two games kind of jump off a little bit for me. But again, I really want to see this Clipper Nugget game and see what ultimately happens in game one and the series as they move through it.
Chuck Esposito, director of the Red Rock Race and Sportsbook in Summerlin, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Now, the full NBA playoff field is not yet set. We still have two more teams that are trying to punch their ticket into the field. Two more play-in games tomorrow. The Miami Heat taking on the Hawks, Mavericks, Grizzlies. Where are you seeing the most action in those two games early? Obviously, those lines just got set late last night. And do you think we could potentially see the first 10 seed make their way out of the play-in to the playoffs?
We could. I think in the first game, we've seen the game come down from 1.5 to 1. And then you've seen some money on the dog in the second game as well. Opened the Grizzlies up 7, has been as low as 6, kind of settled in at 6.5 right now. But I think that the Mavs have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, too. We do have some liability on them as well with a high price of around 750 to 1 right now. So kind of curious to see how it ends up there. But Heat had a blowout victory against the Bulls. I know the Bulls, 3 of the last 4 years in the play-in rounds, and I really thought they would play better the way they played late in the season, but not to be. The Heat seems to be their Achilles heel, and now the Heat are a small dog. But it looks like it's trending, guys, to either going pick or the Heat the favorite before tip-off on Friday.
Would love to get some of your thoughts on these NFL draft markets as well. Right now, with what you have up, it's just, the markets have changed so much over the years. What seems to be your most popular markets right now?
Well, they're all popular. Guys, the public loves our guests to put the draft props up. I know as an industry, we haven't always done well with them. We're in such an information era, and there's so much information out there. But we know that it's on every sports channel. Everybody's talking about it. We're a week away. So we do put them up, but we're going to move them really fast. We have an index up, I think, for 26 of the teams of who will be their first pick. And they can play it. For an example, the Raiders' first pick is running back. A lot of rumblings about Gentry possibly going there. That's the odds-on favorite, but you've also heard rumblings about an offensive lineman. The Saints, we had quarterback as their number one pick or the favorite. As soon as we heard the news about Carr, we had to take that down because so many people wanted to bet quarterback there. We've got the number of trades in the first round where all teams currently hold their number one pick. Mr. Irrelevant, what position it'll be, and we're looking to add some player props over the weekend. Just kind of, again, we're in this information era. There's so much out there. That's where we've kind of gotten beat a lot in the past. So we're kind of holding off until this weekend, but we will have some player props up as well. But our guests love these props, and, we wanted to make sure we put them on the board because they're so popular.
And I want to just say, Chuck, kudos to you guys for doing that, because I know there are a lot of operators that don't want to book this thing at all, or they wait until the absolute last minute where they put them up only just to take them down the next day or a day or two after. And so it's a really good thing that you guys do, because as you said, it is something that the public wants. It's so popular. People love the draft. The NFL is king. So it makes so much sense. Just kudos and props to you guys for going out there and doing that. Is there anything that you personally have liked as you've kept tabs on the draft? Was there anything that stood out to you as you were setting these numbers?
I think the trade market as well. Last year I think there was either 5 or 6 trades in the first round. That's kind of an intriguing prop because, as I mentioned, all teams currently hold their first round pick, and people have asked me, do you think the Giants or Browns will take a quarterback in the first round? And I'm like, not at 2 or 3, I don't believe. But I do think they're both in play to trade back into the first round with possibly Milroe, Jackson Dart. I think you're going to see at least 3 go for sure in the first round. 3 quarterbacks in Dart for sure, Sanders for sure, and Ward for sure. But I think Milroe might find his way back in as well. So I think the 3.5 over-under quarterback prop is going to be really interesting.
Do you have any notable liabilities for the draft?
Not really at this point, because usually it came, Grace, with when you put up the player props, and I think that's where we've gotten hurt in the past. They are looking at, there's, again, so many smoke screens and rumblings out there. We would have had it on the Saints to be their first pick to be a quarterback had we not taken that prop down when we heard the Carr injury. Quarterback, as I said, was already the favorite. Yeah. They were looking to bet that, but nothing significant at this point. But over the weekend, I'm sure we'll hear more stuff, and there might be some going into next week for sure.
Chuck, you're awesome, and we'll continue to check in with you. Appreciate the time today.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah, if you're ever in Vegas, you got to make sure you go hang out with Chuck over at Red Rock Race and Sportsbook. They've got a great setup over there near downtown Summerlin. Also, reminder here at VSiN, if you want to try to unlock your winning edge, you get full VSiN Pro access to everything we do right now through August 1st, just $59. Sign up, you save 50% off our regular monthly price. That includes the daily email recapping all the best bets from our VSiN show hosts and guests, access to our exclusive betting splits from multiple sportsbooks, complete with trend and analysis to sharpen your betting game, 24/7 video access on the VSiN Watch app, plus everything, all of the articles, no limits on VSiN.com. Every sport, every edge, one low price, just $59 right now when you head over to VSIN.com/subscribe. We're wrapping things up next. Some intriguing and massive news in the NBA, best bets, and something I will be watching today that doesn't get enough attention. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Big news in the NBA as we welcome you back here to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. She's Grace Remington. I'm Stormy Buonantony. But the news about Milwaukee Bucks star Damian Lillard, per Shams Charania of ESPN moments ago, Dame has been cleared of his deep vein thrombosis and is no longer on blood-thinning medication, Grace. He'll be out for Game 1 Saturday as expected against Indiana, and will have a brief period of time to resume contact workups and ramp up for a return. Shams then quote tweeted, doubled down, just said what a remarkable and historic development it is to clear from something like this in just over 3 weeks. Doctors told Bucks officials this recovery has, quote, never been seen before, but occurred due to such early treatment, detection, and specialists working on Lillard even before the formal diagnosis. So very, very cool. I mean, good news for him, obviously, just from a health standpoint. We saw, obviously, what happened with Wemby earlier in the regular season and what that did to derail things for him, and, you know, the hope that everything gets on track there. But for this to be just 3 weeks in and questions about what that might look like for him in the postseason, to have that cleared and be ramping up and ready to go is massive.
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, definitely happy to hear this news. I mean, I have someone close to me who deals with this issue, so I can kind of relate to him on that standpoint. And it's not like the injuries we typically talk about in sports betting are like a rolled ankle or just, you know, something broken that can heal quickly, is something that's not life-threatening. So it does feel weird when you get news like this to run to the markets, but I get that's just the weird nature of our job. But good for Dame. So not going in Game 1. And then even after that, though, he's probably not a full go. Like his minutes would probably be limited. So now that we have this piece of the news, we need to know about Giannis. I guess he is going Game 1. I thought he wasn't, which is good. They'll have one of the two because Bucks were terrible, as I said earlier, minus 15.4 in their possessions without both of them, which was worse than the 14-win Pistons. So, yeah, I mean, I guess good.
See, that's
good
interesting.
For the Bucks.
I just misunderstood you earlier when we were talking about that. I thought you were just talking about Dame being out, but those numbers were with the two of them out.
Oh,
yes.
no.
So that's why I was like, oh no, I think I like the 5.5 with the Bucks because of the Giannis element and him being back with a vengeance from a season ago. We have seen an adjustment, though, in the market on this series price. Obviously, Game 1 hasn't moved from that 5.5. Dame was expected not to play. He's not playing. But Pacers now minus 175, Bucks plus 145 in the series price there. So definitely a significant move when it comes to his health, and just like happy for him that works out and he gets to do what he loves and be a part of this attempted run here in the early round of the postseason. Again, on DraftKings right now, the Nuggets and Clippers series, a pick 'em right now in a lot of places, though. You are seeing LA with a slight edge of minus 120. Knicks, a $4 favorite in the set against the Pistons. Lakers minus 195 against the T-Wolves. Boston minus 5,000 against the Orlando Magic. And then the Golden State Warriors, despite being a 7 seed, around 2-1 favorite against the Rockets, who are plus 155 in that set. Okay. Let's get to a little bit of Major League Baseball, Grace. Our best bets today presented by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. Remember, everybody, G-Bank is upping the ante with their G-Bank Visa Signature Card. New customers, first 90 days from account opening, spend $1,000. You get $250 bonus right away. Apply now at VSiN.com/Gbank. That's VSIN.com/Gbank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions may apply. But you are out there on the diamond, my friend. What's one bet that stood out to you on tonight's card?
I like the Guardians-Orioles over 8.5 today, and it's a fade of both of the starting pitchers, though we do have a little bit of a breeze blowing out to right center field, so that helps a bit. But Tanner Bibby, the last 2 seasons, his expected ERA has been 3.7, which is good, right? Well, this year it's up a full points to 465. And it's because the shape of his fastball isn't grading well. The spin rate has gone down. So just not as effective as it has been in the past. And then he also has changed up his arsenal. He's backed off the changeup and the curveball. He's now throwing a slider cutter. It's supposed to be a slider, but it grades out as a cutter. And both pitches are just way out of the zone compared to what his career standard is. So something's wrong when you see, just the underlying metrics not going a guy's way. You just wonder if there's some like small injury that's going on there, but we'll have to wait and see to find out. Either way, I expect negative regression from him. And then on the other side, we have Tomoyuki Sugano, who won the Sawamura Award twice. That is the Japanese equivalent of the Cy Young. So there's kind of some name value associated with him, but also fading him because you look at the difference between his actual and expected metrics. He has a 3.86 ERA, but a 5.83. So that's 2 full points higher expected ERA. And then his FIP and XFIP also in the mid fives range. And those expected stats line up with his projections for the season. So we should see some negative regression with him. In his last season with the Nippon Professional Baseball League, he had a K rate over 18% and a walk rate of 2.6%, which is really good. But in his 3 MLB starts, that K rate is all the way down to 8% and the walk rate is up to 8%. That's like quadrupled. So it appears it's been more difficult for him to get MLB hitters out. So fading both pitchers here, taking the Guardians O's over 8.5.
Okay, quick update for anybody who is wondering what's going on in the Diamondbacks Marlins game. D-backs up 6-2 right now in the bottom of the 5th, but Marlins with runners on the corner. So if you liked the over, you are rooting for some positive things to happen here offensively. Also, the Pirates still up 1-0 in the bottom of the 5th. 2 runners on, no outs there. Reds and Mariners now tied at 2 in the top of 5. Where things sit there. Now, these next couple games, Grace, I know that these aren't bets you have in pocket, but you did have a couple leans in Yankees, Rays, and Royals, Tigers. What were you considering? Do you think you might end up ultimately getting anything in the account?
I think the thing that stands out the most to me is this Royals Tigers game. I like the under 8.5. I think that was the one. It opened 8.5. It was immediately bet down to 8 last night. Yeah, so it's an 8. Oh gosh, now it's a 7.5. Well, that makes sense. You can get an under 7.5 at -102. It looks like, but the Tigers are facing a negative park shift here. They are moving from a 72-degree temperature-controlled dome in Milwaukee to 52 degrees in Detroit, with wind blowing directly in at home plate. So better pitching weather today than they've been facing for the last couple days. I think these two pitchers, now opposite of what I said for the last game, kind of expecting some positive regression from them, even though their results don't show it. So Michael Lorenzen is outperforming his projections to start the season. There's not really a big drop off between his actual and expected numbers, which would imply that, you know, what we're seeing from him is true. His location plus and pitching plus are at career highs. He has a 3.71 ERA, a 3.60 FIP. So like that about him. Reese Olson, not off to a great start, but should also regress toward his career average. He has a 6.0 ERA in 3 starts, but the expected numbers, a 4.5 ERA and a 3.9 FIP, line up more closely with his 3.5 career ERA and 3.1 career FIP, which just says he's been unlucky to start the year. You look even further at the underlying metrics, his velo is up. You know, some of these other stats like, you know, ground ball rate, left on base rate, even his strikeout rate, the walk rate, like they're all better. So like the actual results should catch up to what he's putting out there as well. And then the bullpens are rested. So I like the under in Royals Tigers.
All right, good deal there. Best bets and lanes today, presented by GBank, the official bank of VSiN. And just my personal frustration, last 90 seconds before we go. Tell me why we can bet on the rodeo and handball and darts, and we can't bet on the NCAA gymnastics championships that are coming up tonight. That's where I will be dialed. The semifinals today. We got 8 teams remaining. There will be 2 sessions of semifinals beginning at 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. The best teams in the country. We've got some star power. The defending national champion LSU Tigers trying to come back and repeat. Although Livy Dunn, I'm sorry, everybody on social media that loves her so much, she will not be competing on this. She's had a fractured knee for a while. She hasn't competed in 2 months, so she'll be watching from the stands. But lots of star power still. You got Jade Carey, 2020 Olympic gold on floor Olympic, bronze in 2024 on the vault. She, of course, won the gold as a team. Jordan Childs Olympics, Grace McCollum, a lot of big names in the gymnastics world that are going to be on display today. So much fun. You got Oklahoma that's coming back. They've won 6 of the last 10 titles. UCLA was held out of the field last year. They're back in there. Because I have personal ties to the program at Utah, am always rooting for the Utes when it comes to gymnastics. But I would like to place a wager, Grace, and it hurts my heart that I am unable to do so. But that said,
it would hurt my heart to root against any of those athletes because they're so talented.
It's going to be so fun. So tune in, ESPN2 later on today. I'm going to be hype about it. Might be tweeting about it. I'll definitely be talking about it tomorrow on the show. Keep it locked right here, though, on VSiN. Even though we're done, prop points coming up next. They'll give you the lowdown on that Pacers series, knowing that obviously Dame's going to be out game 1, but back soon for the Bucks. And more. Stay tuned.